Hi, I'm Ernie Stevens of the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin. I've served as staff director of the American Indian Policy Review Commission and the Senate Select Committee on Indian Affairs. I've worked in Washington for 8 years in the executive branch and in the legislative branch. I know Washington as well as anyone, which means that if I don't know something, I know where to find out about it. Over the years, many Indian people have come to me for advice. They've come looking for help to build their schools, for health services for their people, and for aid to their communities. They've come to improve their lives, to find ways to educate their children, to protect their land, and to ensure their rights. I've tried to help them as much as I can, and if I can't help them, I try to find out who can. Washington is a big, confusing town. People who come looking for help from the government of the United States better know where to find it. And you know, there are places to find help. Quite a few, in fact. To begin with, there are 3 branches of the United States government and hundreds of agencies and departments that spring from these branches. Over there is the White House.
That represents the executive branch, or the presidency. And that's Congress, the lawmaking branch of the government. This is the Supreme Court, the symbol of the judicial branch, the one that interprets and enforces those laws and acts. And here are the agencies and departments set up by these branches. They house the enormous power of the 3 branches. These agencies can provide assistance to you.
Okay, you probably want to know what all this has to do with you. A lot. Because Indians, more than any other group within the United States, are affected and dominated by executive orders, laws, regulations, and decisions made by these 3 branches and carried out by these agencies. In fact, over 4,000 laws and statutes directly affecting Indians have already been enacted by Congress. So you have to know more about this government that affects your lives so deeply and often so destructively. You need to know because Indian governments have a special relationship with the United States based on treaties and on those special laws. And because the 3 branches of the United States government have weakened the power of Indian governments. You need to know because the United States provides Indian people and governments with financial assistance. And finally, you need to know the workings of the United States government, its branches and agencies, so you can prevent their destructive interference in your lives. In a way, it's like having a watchdog around to protect you. He does protect, but you better never forget that he's big and he can bite. Let me give you examples of how knowing the United States government works out. The Havasupais were fighting for the return of their grazing lands at the rim of the Grand Canyon.
Land that the Sierra Club didn't want them to have. While the Sierra Club was having lunch, the Havasupais sped the bill through Congress. They regained their land by knowing how to make Washington work for them. Another example. When the United States terminated the Menominee tribe in 1960, their survival as Indian people was at stake. By lobbying, pressuring Congress, and by using their knowledge of the United States government, they reversed the termination decision. It took a lot of work, but they did it. And the Taos Pueblo in their sacred Blue Lake, for over 61 years they fought for its return, and got it. And the Navajos, they wanted funds for a Navajo college, and they got them.
These separate nations had some things in common to get what they needed. First, they had the need. They needed things for their people's health or welfare that required action from the United States. Then they had the will to see it through. And that isn't easy, because this United States bureaucracy, this maze of departments, is tough, even for us Washington Redskins. But there's one more thing they had in common, and that's information. Information. The Havasupais, the Menominees, the Taos Pueblos, the Navajos, and many other nations have learned about the government they are dealing with. They and their lawyers studied the system and made it work for them. And that's what you're going to have to do. something else. Many of you probably think that the only agency you can deal with is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. But today, 7 executive departments offer programs to you. They include the Department of Interior, the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, the Departments of Justice, Commerce, Labor, Housing and Urban Development, and Agriculture. Many agencies spring from those departments, like the Office of Economic Development, the Office of Education, the Indian Health Service, and many, many others. In fact, this film is being sponsored by a grant from the Administration for Native Americans. These agencies are set up to deal with your need for health services, for teachers, for schools, special programs, and for land preservation. But you have to know the right ones. What I'm saying is that the United States government is big and has lots of agencies to help you and is obligated to work for you in your betterment. You can learn about the United States government to make the things that you want happen and to prevent the things that you don't want from happening. Information is power.
Biawabi bakmaru himna, Biawabi bakmaru himna, Honga barawi, Yamane, Yamane, Honga barawi, Yamane, Yamane, Biawabi bakmaru himna, Biawabi bakmaru himna, Honga barawi, Yamane, Yamane, Honga barawi, Yamane, Yamane, Biawabi bakmaru himna, Biawabi bakmaru himna, Honga barawi, Yamane, Yamane, Honga barawi, Yamane, Yamane.